Hey, Lee Wolf here. We are live, and if it looks like I'm ready for baseball, you are correct. I am ready. I am ready for the season. And this is Game Face Monday, but we are on a special day at a special time today with a special guest, which sounds very special. And as always, Mr. Richie Bello is sitting by my side. How you doing, Richie?
Great, Lee. How are you? Thanks a lot for having us.
Awesome, awesome. And today we're going to be talking about competition from independent repair shops and how that's growing and how dealers want to protect their gross profits. And we brought an expert in the field to the show today, Mr. Nick Shaffer from Market Pro 3. How you doing, Nick?
Could not be better, Lee. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. And just because my brain does that, the other way people would find the business was it VTI?
TVI.
TV. That makes a little more sense. Yeah. TVI. And just before we get rolling on the show, we're going to run a quick sponsor message from Shop Smart Autos on our VIN Retention Report. Before you spend another dime on marketing and advertising, inspect what you expect. The SSA Vin Retention Report from Shop Smart Autos is the answer. Do you know your retention status? You might be losing hundreds of customers a month, but what if you could keep just a few more? Each retained customer means thousands in revenue, adding up to millions per year. The SSA Vin Retention Report is the inspection tool you've been looking for. Find out what you're missing before it costs you. All right, so Nick, tell us a little bit about where you came from and then how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I'm a California guy, born and raised there. Went to college at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. And right after getting out of college, I got my first job in automotive retail. I wrote service at a Lexus store in Northern California and quickly discovered that automotive retail was just like a hidden gem as far as like a great place to make a career for yourself. Local dealerships often are very involved in the community. When they have good dealer principles, they have a great culture. And I was fortunate enough to work for that type of auto group. So I worked for the Hendrick Automotive Group for 11 years. And when I left automotive retail to come work for TVI, I was a fixed operations director over an 11-store cluster in Northern California. And of course, I gradually grew to that responsibility after writing service, becoming an assistant manager, service director, and then FOD. So that typical career path. But for the last 4 years, I was in automotive retail. I actually used TVI Market Pro 3 as my preferred marketing partner. And it was the only marketing partner that I ever personally used that helped me grow my business and moreover, proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that they helped me grow my business. So I got to a point in my life where I had a young family. I wanted to be the type of dad that had enough time to coach football and sports and be very, very involved. And that's quite frankly challenging to do when you're an FOD over 11 stores. So I decided to leave automotive retail thinking that I'd eventually have to come back to it. But I ended up going to work for TVI and have made an even greater career for myself on the second half of my career working for TVI. So I started off as their local rep in Northern California. After a few years, became promoted to be the regional sales manager for the West Coast. And at the beginning of last year was promoted once more to be their VP of sales. So that's what I do now. And I've been with TVI for 8 years. It's a wonderful, incredible family-owned business with a very special culture. So I feel fortunate to be here.
Awesome. And so customer comes on board. What are in broad strokes, what are the steps and how is it that their business comes into growth?
Sure, you bet. So what our dealership customers experience when they decide that they want to do business with us is that we are not a cookie cutter marketing program. What most of our competitors are, and by competitors I mean other marketing companies, they would sit down with a dealer and say, okay, Mr. Dealer, here's our $2,000 package, here's our $3,000 package, here's our $4,000 package. Go ahead and pick whichever one fits your needs the best. And the reality is that almost every dealership has unique goals, unique constraints in a unique market with a unique brand and a unique team. So to that end, everything that we do is custom tailored to our clients' unique circumstances. So the first thing they experience is a consultation where we find out what are those variables? What are they hoping to accomplish? What unique advantages and constraints do they have? A little bit about their market, a little bit about their brand. And then we go to work building a custom tailored solution to pursue their goals and nothing else, because ultimately, if we don't achieve their goal, then we're not being a very good partner to them.
Right.
So it takes about 2 weeks for us to put that together. We can usually deploy within that period of time. And then every month we're deploying custom tailored marketing solutions that are geared towards that dealer's unique goals. And then we meet with them monthly to evaluate, are we making progress on achieving them?
Okay. And those marketing solutions, just for the audience's sake.
Sure. Yeah, those marketing solutions are going to be deployed across a combination of direct mail, email, personalized websites, Google paid search, social media channels. And actually, we're very excited to announce that a small handful of months ago, we acquired another company called Unotify, and Unotify adds to our toolbox text message marketing and BDC management tools. So
Wow.
we have the ability to offer any combination of those solutions to our dealer clients.
And with all those solutions, the message and the timing and everything is all on par. It's all you're hitting on a broad base the same message to everyone too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it'll always depend, Lee, on what that dealer's unique business goals are. So as an example, let's say a dealership says, you know what, I have the best team and the best culture. And if you bring me a brand new customer, I can retain them. I don't need any help retaining a customer. I need you to help me get a new customer in the door. We're going to build a campaign for that dealer where it's going to be a conquest campaign. And the message is going to be, hey, come give us a try for the first time. Might have a picture of the team, a little bit about the dealership's culture and what makes them a special place to do business. But let's say on the flip side of things, a dealer doesn't care about bringing in a brand new customer.
Right.
They know that they have a poor customer experience and they want to recapture people that they've lost over the years while maybe they were going through a lot of turnover or they were rebuilding a team. That campaign is going to look entirely different with a different target audience and a different message.
Okay. Yeah. So Rich, I mean, from a retention standpoint, right, in the service departments across all the dealerships in the States, this would be a pretty incredible tool, right? Tools.
Well, like, here's the thing, like our podcast, our Game Face Monday, is not a sponsored or anything. The only person that sponsors about our own company. So for me to put somebody on here, I have to have conversations with them and actually check things out, right? Because I try to keep a podcast as credibility in the marketplace.
Okay.
I've had some serious conversation with Nick, with Mr. Allen, back and forth. And I actually ran 4 or 5 companies that they are in retention, and you'd be surprised, 65 to 70% retention. Okay. And I was very, very impressed with that. And here we are with these tools. So I know as a fact that it's a credible company. Number 2, I know they got a good process. And number 3, I know they have great solutions, because running VIN reports for people that do DMS marketing, for people that do CDPs, there's a whole kinds of different people that I do that for. And looking at it, he's one of the highest in retaining the service customers based on the VIN Retention Report. Okay.
Appreciate that information, Richie. Thank you.
So I take a deep dive on something and I take a look at it, and I was very, very impressed with what I saw from the perspective of retaining your customers. And such a great, credible company. Company's been around since the 80s. They've scaled into today's technology, which is, I don't see that a lot. I know a lot of advertising companies that have been around since the 80s, and they haven't really scaled into the evolution, because that's what it is. It's the evolution. It's like you're a surfer in the evolution. And I'm very impressed with the company as far as the fix ops and as far as what they do in retaining the customers. I would like to take a deeper dive of how they can get those numbers to where I saw them, because those are the highest ones so far that I've seen.
Yeah. So what, well, Nick, from a service department standpoint, that's a huge moneymaker for dealerships. How do you see what would be the thought process behind hitting a service department? If they're saying, look, we want to retain customers, we want to keep them happy, we're targeting customers, like the VIN retention report can show dealerships what cars they held on to and what cars they lost, and they could show them where those cars ended up. So now they want to go out there, let's say, and target those customers that they lost and bring them back through the service department, while also keeping the people that are already in the service department happy. What kind of a thought process comes to mind behind that?
Yes, sir. Great question. So there's three different camps we need to dig into there. So the first camp is when we're asked by a dealership to help them with their client retention, we feel that we have a responsibility to do kind of an operational analysis for them. By that, I mean, if they are not retaining their customers, I mean, let's just call it what it is. There's a reason for that, right? Like if your customer's not coming back, you owe it to yourself to look in the mirror and say, why? Why is my customer not coming back? So when we originally meet with a dealer partner that wants us to help them with retention, we're going to sit down and ask them a few difficult questions like, why is your customer not coming back? Do you have low turnover or high turnover? Do you have ongoing investments in your employee training? Do you have a clear vision and culture for your customer experience? Do you have clear, transparent pricing on your website? There's a bunch of things that we're going to ask them. And if the answer is no, we don't have those things, then we'll be a good partner to them and say, well, you know what, you might not be ready to invest in marketing to your retention customer to get them back, because I mean, again, quite candidly, you owe it to yourself and your team and your customer to get the house right before you invite a guest into it. So most dealers aren't used to a marketing partner telling them that. They're used to a marketing partner saying, thank you, sir, I'll take your check, and hopefully your results get better. And if not, well, I got paid. That's not the type of partner we want to be. So, and all of those questions that I just asked, turnover, training, those aren't necessarily things we can help them with, but we want to make sure that they have all those things in place. Otherwise, it's quite frankly, again, premature for them to invest in marketing. But let's say that they do have all those things in place. So our approach is going to be two-pronged. Before we do anything marketing-wise, we're going to look at data. TVI right now doesn't mean anything as an acronym, but when the company was founded in 1983, it did. It stood for Texas Vehicle Information. We're a Texas-based company. TVI was a data acquisition and purification company before it was a marketing company. We actually were responsible for acquiring and curating and purifying the data that fed the factory programs for a lot of the big OEMs. And eventually we became a marketing company and didn't serve that function anymore. But because we've always kept our data acquisition and purification disciplines, we're able to really help a dealer better than our competitors and better than the factory program. Here's why. Manufacturers are in the business of building and selling cars and parts. They are not in the business of purifying their own data. So when, let's say, a Toyota store says, hey, Nick, we want your help with TLE, I know that the TLE files that show the records of the customers that are their active customers, that are their inactive customers, that inactive file is about 15% inaccurate because, again, the manufacturer's in the business of building and selling cars and parts. They're not keeping track of, did that Camry owner sell the car? Is it totaled? Did it get burned in a fire? Did they give it to their kid for their kid to go to college? Or did they move from California to Texas like I did at the beginning of last year? They're not keeping track on all of those things. What they're doing is they're relying on that customer to show up in a Toyota service drive for a repair order. And when they do, that transactional data feeds up into the manufacturer's database. But if that customer doesn't, the manufacturer really isn't doing anything to keep track of the cars that are changing hands or moving from one market to another. that's where we really shine. So we're constantly buying data to confirm that those customers still live in that market, still own that car, and still represent a viable opportunity for them. And we're only pursuing the customers that are still real opportunities for that dealership to grow their retention. If they've moved out of the area, not only are we not going to go after them, but we're actually going to share that data with the dealer so they can purify their DMS files, which is then going to make the manufacturer's data more accurate. So
that's everything.
That's part of what makes us special, is that before we're a marketing company, we're a data company. That's going to provide a more efficient program. A dealership is going to usually spend less money marketing through us than one of our competitors, because our competitors are going to market to those 15% of those opportunities that aren't there anymore. So, but the fact that we're able to give that data back to the dealer and help them purify their own data immediately provides a boost to their retention, because that customer that's no longer there, if we can get the data to reflect that it's no longer there, their retention goes up without writing a single repair order to do it.
Wow.
So that's the data piece. Then goes on to the marketing piece. So when we get the DMS download from the dealership, we're able to identify what is the defection point for their customer that they're failing to retain. Is it 6 months since the last repair order, 7, 9? And then we're able to custom build a communication cadence with that target audience to make sure we get the right offer to the right customer at the right time. And for a certain store, that might mean we have to get really aggressive on price and convenience in month 9. In another store, it might be month 7. So, but by making those solutions custom tailored to the store, it prevents the dealership from having to discount their services to an unnecessary and unhealthy level, period, or too early. So, anyways, those messages are usually going to be some sort of maintenance-driven need. Mr. Wolf, according to our records, your car is due for service. Great news. You have Toyota Care, so it doesn't cost you anything. Come on in and see us today. Scan this QR code to book your appointment. Or it might be a deeply discounted oil change, something to get that customer back in the door before they get to the defection point where they hurt the dealership's retention metric. Wow. Ideally, we don't want to try and attract that customer back to the store with a deeply discounted price. We'd rather do it by showing the client that the dealership is a convenient place to do business with same-day appointment availability. We can turn you around in 30 minutes or less, or 60 minutes or less. If the dealership can offer those sorts of convenience promises, we don't need the deeply discounted service to get them back in the door, because we can show the customer that they're as convenient to do business with as the local independent shop that they were probably considering going to instead.
Wow.
So I know that was a whole lot to camp out on and dig, but
all beautiful. Yeah, Richie, I mean, the company was founded on data.
Right. So let's talk about this. The company is very interesting, driven by process and data driven.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So when I took a deep dive on it, those are the two things I found out through the R.O. Polk and Company. When the company started, they were very big with the data. They reached out, so I did my own research, right? So that's how I really got introduced to this company. But the biggest thing, and I want the audience to understand something. The average retention report is right around 25 or 30%. Nick's company, the few reports that we ran were 65 or 70. Let's see what that is. Let's find out. Let's get into it. Let's get under the hood. 65 to 70% that they're retaining with the VIN retention. That means they're only losing nothing compared to the marketplace. They're the highest I've seen. That tells me that they have some sort of training program in these dealerships, like he said, because even if you retain service customers, doesn't necessarily mean you're retaining sales customers. And the VIN retention report targets the sales process. Okay. So now their service customers are so happy that even if in sales, they have a little bit of a problem. They're still converting and buying the cars. Why? Because the customer is looking, or somebody's putting in their head of that long-term relationship. Mr. Jones, you're buying a car from me. You're going to get married to me when you buy that car. You have to come here for service. I'm going to be there. My name is Richie. I have a 5-star store. Da, 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 da. So that means that value is being put to the customer, because there is no way with all these VIN retention reports that I've run that they could be at 65 or 70%. There's no way of it. Okay. It has to be that somebody's paying attention. So this company is, and they're doing a very good job by retaining those service customers. They're also retaining the sales customers. Because if you have happy customers in service, guess what? You're going to sell more cars.
That's fact.
So there's two things that they're doing that's really aggressive. Okay. And I can only imagine what the effective labor rate is. And I can only imagine what the average RO is. Okay. These companies that they're doing this, I can only imagine. Okay. So now, because effective labor rate, the car comes in, they already know that car keeps coming in. The effective labor rate's going to increase every time they walk in there.
Yeah.
Every time, because they know the car so well that it's that easy. Now it's just more profits, more retention, and more retention. So they're building what I call a machine. Okay? That's what they are. They're builders, they're developers of machine that make the dealership money. Why? Because their retention is so high that you don't really have to do that much ads. And I guarantee you that their stores are no way near the NADA national average of $705 a car. Guaranteed. And I'm excited about this company because this company is a game changer when it comes to retaining your customers. And what does retention equal? Profitability, increased morale, right? It increases profits and increases awareness. Morale is a very important thing. I'm a salesman and I'm walking in there and all these customers keep coming back to that store. And I'm working the service lane and just as a new salesman shooting the breeze. And I find out that these customers are ecstatic in service. That increases morale. Absolutely. Because now I know that that dealership is doing the right thing by the customer. So if that dealership does the right thing by the customer, guess what? They're going to do the right thing by me because I'm in front of the customer.
Right.
So now the morale thing is a big thing in business, and it's a very big thing in the automotive sector.
And then that creates employee retention as well, which costs tens of thousands of dollars. And actually, speaking of retention, we're just going to break away for 1 minute with JP from VinSight on the retention minute.
Hey guys, JP Burkemper with VinSight. Most dealers spend all their energy on the sale, closing the deal, moving the unit, hitting the monthly numbers. But what happens after that? You know, too often the customer drives off the lot and never comes back. That's a problem because if you're only focused on the sale, you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table over the lifetime of that customer. Think about it: service, appointments, accessories, F&I products, trade-ins, repeat purchases. Now, a single customer isn't just worth one sale. They're worth multiple over the lifetime of that customer journey. The best dealers are the ones that have the mindset: how do I sell this car? But also, how can I keep them as a customer for as long as possible? This means consistent follow-up, personalized offers, and making sure every interaction after the sale is just as intentional as the ones before it. See, retention is not just a department, it's a culture. And the dealerships that get that right aren't just selling cars, they're building loyal customers every day. So are you treating your buyers like transactions, or are you turning them into loyal customers who don't have the choice of going anywhere else? Because with Vinsight, you sell them and we keep them coming back.
That music wakes me up every time.
It does me too.
Man, the dog goes. I have a dog here too, and it's like, But quick question. Not doesn't have to be quick. So when you go into a business and you're offering your services, and you have many branches of different types of marketing styles that you can offer them, how do you handle the marketing efforts that they already have in place?
Great question. So part of the consultation is to ask them, what are they doing now that they like? What are they doing now that they don't? And whatever they have in place that they like, we're not there to fix something that isn't broken. So part of the benefit of offering completely customizable solutions is we can build a campaign that wraps around and fully supplements what they have in place now that they don't want to sever ties from. But if there's part of their marketing strategy that they don't like, either because more often than not, either they think they're spending too much money, they're not sure what their return on investment is, or like they remember that they bought it from some guy that sold it to them a year and a half ago and then has never come back into the dealership ever since then to maintain the relationship or show them the return on investment. Like, of course, they're not going to feel that there's a good partnership there. So really, the dealership usually has a good pulse on what they're doing that's working, what they're doing that's not. And if I ask them that question, what are you doing that you like? What are you doing that you don't? And their answer is them reciting their vowel sounds, I say, no problem. Like, let's go ahead and look at everything that you're doing. And whether you believe that I'm impartial or not, I'm going to shake your hand and promise you that I'll be impartial and help you analyze what you're getting out of each of these programs. And, I'll be a complimentary consultant for you through that process, because I don't want to take something out of a dealership that's working. I want the opportunity to learn from it.
So if you hear a lot of, will you actually go in and you'll analyze the existing marketing and then be able to show them the metrics on that and whether it's working or not? Because a lot of times these aren't data analysts that you're dealing with, so.
Yeah. And more often than not, Lee, like they don't know because they're so busy selling cars and selling service and selling parts that they have access to the KPIs. They just don't make the time to get into it. So as long as they have them at their fingertips, like let us do that heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, exactly. You're working 60, 70 hours a week trying to move vehicles and, oh my gosh, trying to analyze data at the same time. I'm sure that's not fun.
But more often than not, though, Lee, if a dealership is reaching out to us because they have a client retention trend that's declining, more often than not, they're saying, hey, look, whether I like what I'm doing or not, it ain't working, right? So we need to do something different because what we're doing now isn't working, and continuing to do the same thing, expecting a different result. We know what that's defined as. So that they're usually very motivated to make a change when their client retention is declining, because they know that that's like the beginning of the end of their business, right? If they don't take dramatic and immediate action, then it's not going to get better. So.
Yes. Richie, so again, founded on data, expanded into marketing, stayed with the times, can analyze your marketing efforts that you currently have in place, see if it's really working or not working, because there's a lot of questions. I mean, you walk into a dealership and you say, how is your postcard working? Why? Because they put a phone number or a QR. You don't know if the customer's just walking around with it, coming in and out. Did the salesperson ask, how did you hear about us? So they're analyzing that as well. That's a pretty heavy force to be reckoned with.
Well, the biggest thing is they retain the customers in service, and that is spinning into, when you look at the VIN retention report, you look at all the customers, 75% of the customers are still in there. They hardly lose any. The real interesting thing is that the VIN retention tells us the private sellers. when they take that VIN number to the private sellers, the stores they gave us, maybe 1% or 2% go out to the private sellers. They gave us 2 stores that we ran. So taking a deep dive at the data that we have, it's really telling us a lot of stuff. Like, wait a minute, they're retaining people and not even selling cars, private sellers, right?
Right. They don't think they could do
They're
straight.
retaining their customers. That means that the customer is going to these dealerships as the dealership is a mentor, as a coach. That's what their product line is, from what I'm seeing, what the data says. And I'm analyzing, and I've been studying it for quite some time now and looking at it in different areas, and it's very, very interesting how they're doing it. And the data speaks to you, the data talks. If you could take a deep dive at data, and Nick knows that, it actually communicates with us.
It tells a story.
We can say it's a roadmap. It tells me exactly what's going on. So it tells me that they're retaining the customers, but the customers are looking at them as a coach or as a mentor. They're going to that dealership to get advice. And that's when you have customer retention, when that customer goes to you for advice. And that's interesting. Is it easier to sell a friend? You bet you. Is it easier to sell somebody you're mentoring? Absolutely. It's much easier.
Yeah.
Because now that person looks at you in a whole different perspective. And it's a really good company. Most important, they have a really good process. And if you want to retain customers, this is the company you want to reach out to.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and if this is the personality that you're greeted with, it's pretty incredible. So
I appreciate you saying that, Lee. So as the VP of sales, I'm the leader of the team that's responsible for not just going into a dealership to earn their business, but all of our reps out in the field they're cradle to grave relationships. So it's not the type of relationship where someone who looks like me and walks like me and talks like me goes into a dealership, earns their business, and then turns them over to a customer support team that's out of country or out of state. That individual is their customer support team throughout the entire length of the partnership. And for that reason, we've had our greatest success with our field reps, not by hiring people that have a marketing background and teaching them dealership operations. We are hiring people that have dealership operations background and teaching them the marketing side of things. Because for someone to be able to consult with a car dealer to identify what is the real cause of their negative retention trend, they've got to be able to look at that business and see the forest through the trees and help that dealer identify what's really going on in their store. How could they do that if they've never worked in a car dealership before? So nearly every single one of our teammates that are out in the field servicing our customers ran a service department or an entire dealership as a general manager. We have teammates who worked with Reynolds and Reynolds for 25 years. We have others that were general managers for equally long. So they're bringing those perspectives into the store and not just the narrow lens of, hey, I understand how marketing works. We also need to understand how to run a car dealership too. And in that regard, a lot of our clients think of us as kind of a unpaid consultant for their business that comes along with their marketing subscription.
Wow. That's huge.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Just want to take a moment to mention Let Data Take the Wheel. It's on Amazon. It's Richie's 4th book. Every penny over cost goes to stopsoldiersuicide.org. We have a major problem in this country with suicide among our veterans, and we owe them everything, if you ask me. And and Richie, I know you wanted to mention a little something about the Institute and funding for our veterans.
Yeah, so we'll be updating our Institute, our nonprofit. Had it for 8 years now. Actually, I don't know if it's 8 or 9. But what we're doing is the veteran what's going to happen is when a veteran needs an SBA, usually they get 50% of it. The Institute's going to match all the funds that they need at the interest rate of the SBA. So we're excited about keep helping our veterans. To Richie Bello itself, one of the most important things, why I work so hard and why I have this and that and all these other companies, it's really, it's the mission that I have for the veterans is the most important thing. I could really care less about anything else, but the veterans means something really special to me, because when you go to apply to go to the Army or something, I looked at their process. It's like dealing with a car salesman. They sell you such a bag of goods that when you come back home, that's why you got so many that are homeless, so many that are that, so many that are this, because when you come back, you don't get a lot of stuff that they tell you you're going to get.
Right.
So these veterans get sold worse than a car salespeople. And I was in that process in Washington and saw it behind the scenes, their process. And it's very hard for a veteran when he gets here and all that. And it's so hard. And I've been doing this thing with the vet now for 8 years, and it's an important thing to me.
Awesome. Yeah, I thank God every day that for our veterans and for our troops that are out there in it now, that they're out there fighting for our freedoms. So absolutely.
My family and I are grateful as well. And Richie, good on you for offering that support. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, Rich, you have Nick, best way that you would like our listeners and viewers to reach out?
Sure. So if anyone's interested in learning more about our strategies, our solutions, our channels, our website's very easy to remember. It's TVI, like Television Incorporated, but doesn't mean that, TVI-MP3.com. That's TVI Market Pro 3, but TVI-MP3.com. For those folks that like to read content, we've got lots of great content on there. For those that like to view content, we have a little over a dozen explainer videos that are about 90 seconds each. They show what we do and what makes us special in each space. And if anyone's interested in getting a complimentary analysis of their dealership with some customized solutions, costs absolutely nothing. And there's a form they can fill out to start that process.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Thank you. That's
complimentary great. Sounds good to me.
That's the right price.
Yeah.
Yes.
Always is. Always is. Rich, you got anything else today for Nick? Or are you feeling? I feel pretty solid.
I'm grateful that I met this company, that I met Nick, and I'm grateful for this company in the automotive space, because the automotive space really needs companies like the one that Nick's with. And I'm very, very grateful that there is a solution out there, Mr. Dealer, where you don't have to be at 10, 15, or 20% retention. You don't have to be. You have a company like this that's responsible, that does the right thing, that is not just about the money, that it's about, is this going to work for you or not?
Right.
And no, it's not going to work, but this is what you got to do to make it work, and then call us 3 months from now.
Right.
And I'm glad that I was lucky enough or blessed enough to meet this company, and thank you.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, and just like White Dove Bird would never do SEO before we have a healthy website. It makes perfect sense what Nick said earlier, that, you know, if you don't have all your ducks in a row first, what are we going to do? Blast people through the door to have a terrible, miserable experience? Yeah, no good.
It's not ethical business, right?
No.
Well, I'm grateful to both of you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do. It's a real privilege, and part of the reason is because TVI, even though we've been in business since '83, we're not yet a household name. And the reason for that is because we actually offer all of our clients a very unique policy called an exclusivity policy. And what that means is for anybody who is a current dealer partner of ours, we give them an agreement that as long as we're doing business with them, we're not going to do business with the dealerships that they compete with in their immediate marketplace. So for that reason, we could never do business with every dealership in the United States of America, right? That would violate that policy. So since we can only do business with maybe call it 25 to 35% of the dealer body, I'm not sure that will ever be a household name. So getting opportunities like this to share information about what we do is again, a real privilege. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, beautiful philosophy. And thank you so much for being on the show today. And Richie, as always, I feel blessed that you have me sitting by your side every week. And that about wraps things up here.
Thank you again, guys.
Every day.
And thanks for everyone for watching and listening. Have a good day.